Hi, I'm David Stein, President and CEO of Kuya Silver. Very pleased to give you a presentation on our exciting growth company. Here's our disclosures. Please take a look at this when you have some time. And by the way, this presentation is also available on our website at www.kuyasilver.com. Kuya is proud to have two district-scale silver projects. Our original and flagship project in Peru is called Bethania, and we have the second project in Northern Ontario, the Silver Kings project in the prolific silver cobalt camp. Both projects are, large land packages, lots and lots of targets. The project in Peru, Bethania, is more advanced. In that case, we've got a past producing mine that we're putting back into production very soon. Silver Kings, we've done some really, really exciting exploration in the last year or so and made some brand new discoveries, which is really exciting. One thing that Kuya can really boast that's different than most other juniors out there is the multiple avenues that we have as a company to create value for our shareholders. We have, like many other companies, great exploration, and I'll talk about it shortly. Both the Bethania and the Silver Kings projects are rich with targets at various stages, from advanced to more greenfields, and we'll be doing lots of exploration on those projects in the coming months and years, both of them. However, we have the yellow bar, which is the development track. So as we bring production closer and closer, and then get into production and then start growing production from there, we create value for shareholders. It's very simple. And that is an aspect of the company very few other companies have. We can become a silver producer here in the next several months, and that's an exciting position to be in that it's difficult to find with other companies. Okay, let's start with Bethania. We've got our project located in the heart of the mining area in Peru, central Peru. You can see Lima just to the west here of our mine, Bethania. Good road access. We're close to this major city, Huancayo, which is a short drive away from our site. So we're well located, good infrastructure in a mining belt that's very well known to have other similar silver, lead, zinc, and some gold mines as well. Now, zooming in on our property, the Bethania land package is represented here. Now, we have the original property, the Bethania mine, which is fully permitted for production. That's in the pink rectangle there. We have a star where our current, resource target is, resource target. And then we've got Carmelitas and Carmelitas Norte just off to the west. So we've been able to opportunistically add to our land package over the last few years, both through acquisition and by staking our own claims. And this endeavor has really added a lot in terms of our resource potential. It's really transformed this project from being a mine scale project to a district scale project, with the potential, in years down the road to have multiple mines feeding a centralized mill. And that's really a model that we like. You'll hear me talk about that later when we get to Silver Kings as well. Now, when we did do our drill program, we really focused in and around the mine workings, not because we wanted to drill off the biggest resource possible. We've kind of left that job for the future. We wanted to drill off where we're going to go and mine. So essentially have a 3D resource model that we could then go and use as a mine model. And with that goal in mind, it was mission accomplished. We were able to find quite a bit of silver. I'll show you the resource in the next slide, very close to the mine workings, and that can be developed very quickly here. So that's a kind of a snapshot of the 3D model. Here's some more detail. You can see our resource, 4.3 million ounces pure silver indicated and another 5.6 inferred. So that's pure silver. We like to look at the pure silver. We are mostly, our resource is mostly silver. So that's really important to us. We do have the equivalent there as well, 6 million indicated and 8.3 million inferred. So the equivalent includes a little bit of lead, zinc, and some copper and gold in our resource, but you can see it is mostly silver, somewhere around 70%. So dominantly silver, and that is going to be really important when we do get into a silver bull market. Investors are going to want exposure to a primary silver project like this. There are very few of them out there. Even some of the projects you think might be silver, you should take a look at the resource. They may not be. So that's where we are with our current resource. Now, we intersected so many veins when we did our initial resource drilling. We have subdivided them into 3 bigger vein systems. So these are controlled by major structures on the property running east-west, more or less parallel to one another. Espanola, Doce de Mayo, and Victoria. You can see all of them are open along strike. All of them are open at depth, you know, with the pink and the red being the highest grades here. You can see where some of the voids are. Those, of course, are not in the resource. Those are mined out, but the vast majority of that block you see there is still available. Now, one of the things we announced most recently, or recently in the last few months, was toll milling agreement with the San Valentin mine next door to us, just off to the east there. 20-kilometer truck haul. We announced another toll milling agreement earlier in the year. This one is a lot closer. We're very happy with this. We think it'll be a great partnership. And really, toll milling, we've decided for the time being, is the way to go. It allows us to get into production quickly with much less capital up front, but we can still make, we think, almost as much money as we would with our own mill, but we are able to get into production quicker and cheaper that way. So it's something that works really well, at least in the short term, and then longer term, we still plan to build our own mill. So here's kind of a summary of where we're at, just with some of the recent announcements. We've got the toll milling agreement. Then we announced a offtake agreement with Trafigura. That was really positive to bring them into the project as well. We completed a public financing, not including the Trafigura deal, we completed a public financing for 3.5 million. So between those two deals, Trafigura and the public financing, we've really put ourselves on a strong foot in terms of having a balance sheet in order to get Bethania into production. We're planning on starting at around 100 tons per day the first few months, ramp that up quickly over the next 12 months or so to 350 tons per day. And so it's a bit of a slower ramp up than we would have planned in our PEA. But again, it allows us to get into production sooner with less CapEx up front, and we will still get to the same place in the long run. If you look at how this compares to our PEA, you can see that we're going to spend less in upfront capital. It will result in a slower ramp up, but it will get to this. We'll get to more or less the same place in terms of production potential down the road once we do reach the 350 ton per day level. And we'll trend down towards very similar costs to what we would have had estimated in the PEA. And again, this is all going to happen in the next year to 18 months by mid 2025. That's our plan. And we're very, very excited. It's a huge opportunity for the company to really, transform itself. Now, getting into production, although a huge focus for us right now, is really not the end of the story. It's really just the beginning, because we've got a really big opportunity here to find something that's much, much larger than what we have today. And of course, with a larger resource, we can look at expanding, production. Expanding production, you produce more silver, and that's really where we see this going in the coming years. But in order to get there, we need to find more silver. So let's start with where we are today. The entire resource right now that we have is located in this this red triangle here. We drilled from surface. We didn't drill very deep in our previous mining. And so everything continues open at depth here. In fact, many of our best drill holes were some of the deepest in the program. Keep in mind that several million ounces have been already removed from this as well, from past mining. So on top of our current resource, it's actually a much bigger geological endowment, you could say, if you include what's been mined out already. And so you can see that's open at depth and could be, we think we're at the top of an epithermal system, so it could go quite a bit deeper. And then along strike, we're very excited about this area off on the other side of the hill where there's a whole another cluster of veins, including one that has the highest grade surface sample we've ever taken to date, Santa Elena vein with 91 ounces per ton silver, and oh, by the way, 5 grams gold as well. So that is a big opportunity for us to extend the strike length, by drilling underneath this hill and then connecting up with these veins over here. I'll show you what that looks like looking top down, but you can see it's more or less doubles the potential strike length of what we have today, let alone what could be off further to the east here. And this is what I'm talking about. So if you start just with the Bethania mine itself, you can see where our current resource is all in this area here. You've got the hilltop zone here on the other side. And then over and above just what's on this original Bethania mine concession, we've got Carmelitas main. You know, these are looking like two parallel-looking structures, you know, running northeast, southwest, and both of which have, you know, a bunch of veins splaying off of them. Very, very similar to what we see at Bethania. And we've done quite a bit of mapping and sampling of these other targets as well. And they're looking, you know, very similar. Silver rich with lead and zinc byproducts, possibly a little copper and gold in there as well. So, and those are only the 3 targets, Bethania, Carmelitas main, Carmelitas norte, that we've really sampled to date. But if you go back a few slides and look at all the other red stars that we have, you'll see that we've got many other targets, especially around the mine area here, that look very promising, and we'll be doing work on those this year. Okay, so now that you can see that Bethania is going to get a lot bigger, let's talk about our second project. Silver Kings is located in northern Ontario, northeastern Ontario, near the Quebec border. And it's in and around the historic mining town of Cobalt, Ontario. Cobalt, Ontario, named for cobalt the metal, which is also found here. In fact, it's found with the silver. Although if you do look at the history of the mining going back to the early 1900s, really this was a huge silver mining camp, especially in the early part of the 20th century. So there's silver there, there's cobalt there. They occur together. We're looking for both because if we find one, we think we'll find the other. Now, this is our whole land package. You can see, again, going from the town of Cobalt here, our property starts about there. And then we have properties all the way down to the Silver Center area and a little bit further south. So it's about 30 kilometers from north to south here. And if we zoom in just on that northern portion here, this we call the Kerr project. This is the original land package. I mean, it's less than 10% of our total land package, but we really like this area because there's a lot of historical mining in this area, including the whole Kerr Lake, you know, sort of mini camp here next to the Cobalt town. This was the next biggest producer of silver in the whole district, and we have and we've got a number of new targets that we've generated, and a lot of data from past explorers as well. Certainly more data. Although there hasn't been a lot of exploration in this area, we definitely have more data here than we have in other parts of the property. So, obvious place to start from our perspective, with the data, with the amount of mining close by, that's historic mining close by, and what we've done is over the last few years, we've continued to think about, what the model is and where we're going to have our best success finding new zones. And indeed, we've sort of figured out that this orange diabase here that I'm pointing to, largely barren, but the silver does seem to occur above and below it, especially below it. And where the diabase has been eroded away, those tend to be areas where you can find the silver veins at surface, and that's what they did, more than 100 years ago, and followed them underground from there. So that's the origin of the Cobalt Town, the Kerr Lake area here in this window, and we think that all that superficial silver has been found, but where you have the diabase still on top, you may have some mineralization at depth below the diabase, and indeed, that's what we found. When we made our first ever discovery here, this was at the Campbell-Crawford property. That's one of the properties I showed you 2 slides ago. We were drilling this target where we saw some structure at surface that we thought, maybe this will host silver at depth below the diabase. So we drilled it, tried to hit that structure that at depth, right at the contact. And that is where we hit the 15,000 grams per ton silver over 3.34 meters. So that's 1.5% silver over a very meaningful width. And then we've had a number of other holes as well in that area that have had, more than 2,000 grams over significant width. So we definitely have, something there. We've continued to do more drilling this year, and going back to our discovery, we really only knew about 2 vein structures. There was the Angus vein, that's the original discovery, and then there's a parallel vein to it that we could see at surface, but we didn't drill, called McNamara. Now we've done more drilling, and what we're seeing here is that there is actually a kind of a cluster or a grid of these veins that are running in largely 2 directions. So the original Angus and McNamara, and then we've got these other veins as well running, essentially almost at a 90-degree angle. And that's very similar to what you see in the bigger silver mining camps in the area, including the Kerr Lake area, including, the mines around Cobalt, the town. So we're very, very excited by what we're seeing at depth here. It's challenging to drill because we're drilling a blind target that's 200 meters below surface. It's not that deep from a mining perspective, but from a geological perspective or an exploration perspective, it can be tricky. Now, we did also drill one big step-out hole 250 meters away. You can see it here on this map. This is, targeting the next property off to the west here, which is called Ergiod. And in that one, we hit a zone almost 2 meters, including the highest assay, and that was 1.64% cobalt with a few hundred grams silver as well. And that would be our highest ever cobalt sample that we've taken as Kuya, at least from drilling. So very, very exciting. Looks like it's a brand new vein. And the fact that we're finding veins so far away from this cluster here is a really, really good sign here. So that was a big step out, successful, and really expands the opportunity that we have in this area. Many other targets. We do have some other targets that we really like. So, you'll see us do more work on those in the coming years and months maybe. But so we've got the Campbell-Crawford. And I think now we have to move Ergiod up to this level because now we actually have drilled data on it and made a new discovery there, our second discovery at depth below the diabase. And then we've got these other targets as well where we actually have historical data here. And so now we have 4 or 5, good targets where we actually have drill data, at least to start off with something and go after, building it out with more drilling. So Silver Kings, if you see, we're going to have, we're looking at having, multiple zones, maybe Ergiod and Campbell-Crawford will connect. Maybe there'll be 2 separate zones. North Drummond, separate zone. Beaver Lake down in Silver Center is very far away. That's down in the southern part of our property. So we can have multiple projects, multiple deposits feeding a central mill, very similar to what we talked about with Bethania earlier. And we really, give investors two projects that are right at the sweet spot of the Lassonde curve. So for those who don't know the Lassonde curve, it's very famous mining entrepreneur and billionaire investor Pierre Lassonde, who was also the founder of Franco-Nevada, created this chart in some form, 25, 30 years ago, and it's still survived today because it's very, very useful, and it really shows you how a typical mining project evolves in terms of creating value over time. And when sometimes it's tougher, sometimes it's better. And I think we're at the right part. Bethania going into production and Silver Kings with a new discovery. Those are really the two sweet spots on the curve when you can create the most value the quickest. So obviously that's great. We've got two projects and they're right in the right place to create value in the next few years here. Our advantages, we have many. Corporate advantage, simple structure, near-term producer with a very low valuation, true silver company with most of our revenue coming from silver, high management ownership, which aligns our interests with shareholders. Our exploration advantage is, again, several, but I think the key one is that in Peru, it's really easy to explore. We have veins coming right to surface, and that that makes for easy mapping, sampling, and then you can drill them, shallow drilling from there. That's what we have, lots and lots of targets there, and more to come. And the production advantage, we can get into production very quickly, low capex, and we know a lot about the production already. So we're not taking as much risk as a sort of a greenfields project going into production. This is kind of a brownfields project that's going back into production. And there's a lot of recent data that's pretty good quality that we can rely on in terms of the mining and the metallurgy. Let's wrap up with our capital structure. I'll just leave this here, but we're very, very low market cap here, especially given that we give investors exposures to two fantastic projects. Either of one could be more than our market cap today, and so you kind of get two for the price of one, in my opinion. Management and directors, this is all on our website, so please go ahead and check that out when you have some more time. Our advisory team, these are some of the key players who've helped us start the company and continue to help us to this day. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate your attention, and I hope you are or become a Kuya shareholder in the next few days and weeks. Please let us know if you have any other questions on the company. We're always around to help.